Hello everyone, P. McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap, this time looking at my Week 7 match in the BBL against Yahoodles, and I'm going to butcher this, the Dynamo Bucuresti. As it stands, I am 5-1 in this league, having secured my playoff spot before even going into this match. I did complete my team build before finding this information out, so I was playing like I had everything on the line still, and I was building the same way. But I was very fortunate to be able to enter this match with a playoff position already secured, as I stand alone on top of the leaderboard right now as the only one-loss team in the division. So I am looking to try and close out these final 2 weeks strong, finish at 7-1, and secure the first overall seed. But before we get into this match, we're going to take a look at the team that he had available to him, and then the pieces I brought to best address it. So getting into his team, he opted for one of the very best Ubers you can draft, which is Yveltal. It's a platinum tier Uber, which means that he can only have that one Uber. But Yveltal is one of the scariest things to deal with. Crazy good type combination. Dark Flying is really difficult to deal with. Oblivion Wing and Roost Access can keep it very lively. Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Dark Pulse, really good options there. Heat Wave is a great coverage move. Just a really difficult mod to deal with. And so I need to be having a lot of creative ways to ensure it doesn't break me. Thankfully, I've got one perfect little flower that does the job very well, but we'll get to that in a minute. Mega Scizor, really scary Mega, just a pretty good wall breaker overall. One of the nice things about Scizor, though, is that it's item locked, and when it's item locked, there's a lot I can do with that on my side to address that in team build. However, the piece I am most concerned with outside of Yveltal is the Victini, just because it can obliterate anything at once on an accurate guess. There's not a lot I can do if it guesses right. So switching into Victini is one of the most difficult things I'm going to have to contend with in this match. Suicune, really scared of sub-toxic stalling or sub-calm mindsets. Those are just going to be very effective in general. I don't have great ways of getting around them outside of my Volcanion. Volcanion is pretty good at addressing any sort of offensive. Suicune has no answer for Toxic Stall, though, other than Roar, which is short-lived, and he can just come right back in and do it again. So very wary of the danger of the Suicune in this matchup. Thundurus, just a really good breaker. I've dealt with one of the Thundurus forms already this season. It was problematic then. I expect this one will be just as equally problematic. Dragalge, the only real consideration for Dragalge is that it stops a couple of items or a couple of sets I may have wanted to run. I can't do any sort of toxic spikes in this match where otherwise it might have been pretty good against this team to deal with things like Suicune or Sash, Dotru, who we'll get to in a moment. But Dragalge can kind of shut that down. Flip turn gives it good momentum. That toxic typing or that poison typing plus the adaptability ability makes it a problem for for Florges to check. And so one of my better dragon options is really stopped by this Dragalge, and the Dragalge has a really great special defense stat to go with that as well. So I have a really hard time poking holes in it with my Florges. Regular Diancie, not scared of that. It's just a really basic fairy. And the nice thing about that fairy is that it's not that threatening, which is going to open up some avenues for some of my mons that really don't want to contest with strong fairies. And so seeing Diancie here is actually pretty favorable for me. Doug Trio, oh, a mon that is as good as the user, and the user for it in this league is really, really good. I believe his Doug Trio is at the top or right near the top of the kill leaderboard, just because of its ability to trap and reliably clean up games with just Earthquake spam. So I'm really, really aware of how powerful this Doug Trio can be in his hands in this match, and so I'm really aware of it going into team build. Girder doesn't really concern me. I have really strong answers to Girder, but it's there as something to consider, I guess. Quagsire, the only real impact of Quagsire is that it could shut down, set up Zygarde unless I have Toxic to status the Quagsire and slowly KO it. So I'm aware that it could be a problem in that regard. Kangaskhan, not really worried about it. Don't expect it to be there. Doesn't do anything in particular that would make it want to come. And then same with Trevenant. I don't really see that being a piece that he's going to bring, just because it doesn't handle some of my offensive pieces that well. It doesn't really have anything to do about Faramosa. It doesn't really love the Zygarde matchup, because if I can sub or something like that, then Trevenant's having a hard time. So I'm not expecting those pieces to show up, but they do exist. Anyway, going into the team build, the pieces I was bringing to kind of handle this team is Zygarde, obviously. I'm going to go for a substitute coil set. The opting for Glare here over Toxic, namely because I need to be able to kind of hinder Scizor. If I can hinder Scizor and then start setting up with coils, then I'm not really scared of Scizor playing a Roost Stall game or a Swords Dance game to get around that, because I have some some paralysis to play with that can lead to some favorable RNG. HP, decently invested. I throw a lot into special defense. I believe the benefit of that is that Scald from Suicune doesn't break me. Giga Drain from the Tangrowth. Oh, I think he has a Tangrowth. Yeah. Looking at this team, he actually did make changes after our match, so this is not a full reflection of the team he had coming into our match. There is, I believe, a Tangrowth on this team that he has available to him. I could be wrong on that though. Going into the team build, maybe not. I could be incorrect about that. But it is special defense invested in a way where, namely, the Scald from the Suicune is not going to break it. I believe a couple of things from Thundurus, like Grass Knot, aren't going to break it, and so it just gives me some survivability behind that substitute, so that I'm not getting broken immediately after subbing. And then some speed investment to try to account for Suicune creep. It's not a lot. I'm aware a very speed invested Suicune could outpace that, so it's something I'm going into the match being unsure about. But I didn't want to play that game when I wanted to put my EVs elsewhere. And then some attack investment as well, so I can do some damage immediately with coils. I believe after 2 coils, I can reliably 2-hit KO defensive Suicune, which is the calc I wanted to get to. The Faramosa is opting for a Choice Scarf this week, just because I'm very aware that he has run and successfully run a Scarf Dugtrio that just traps and outspeeds. And so I didn't want my Faramosa having to contend with that and not going first. Pretty much any move Faramosa is locked into, especially after a +1 boost from the Beast Boost, is going to one-hit KO Dugtrios because they just have garbage stats. And so I will always outspeed the Dugtrio, and if it comes in as a revenge kill, I always reliably pretty much one-hit KO it. So I'm not worried about any Dugtrio that might show up unless it's a Sash Dugtrio. But if that's the case, I have things like U-turn to play with to kind of get around that. Speed invested just to outcreep that, and then the rest specifically thrown into defense to give me survivability against a Bullet Punch for Omega Scizor. I have a fair odds to survive a Bullet Punch depending on the attack investment on the Scizor. So I figured I would work with that in case I need to be able to survive a Bullet Punch late game. The Mega Sableye, like I said earlier, his only fairy is the Diancie, which is not a Mega Diancie. And since that is the case, Sableye is in a really good matchup where it doesn't have to contend with oppressive fairies. I'm not expecting Diancie to show up just because it doesn't do well against Zygarde. It doesn't do great against Faramosa. And I have other pieces as well it doesn't do as well against, things like Jirachi especially. So I don't expect it to be here, but it's something he could bring. But my Sableye is in a pretty good position overall to address that. Opting for Toxic here over Will-O-Wisp. Namely, the reason for the Toxic was that Suicune could still become a problem behind a substitute with a burn. Victini could be a problem overall if I can't put it on a timer. The Diancie is not going to care about the burn. The Yveltal, if it's special, won't care about the burn. So I didn't want to give status to a Mons that wouldn't be overly impacted by them. And so I figured everything that get hit by Toxic wasn't liking the Toxic, with the exception of Scizor, who I can't hit. So I'm really just counting on getting strong enough to break the Scizor. So Calm Mind, Hex, Recover, Toxic. Pretty much full physical defense because I can't boost that up any further, and I can get the special defense up. It's going to take a lot of Calm Minds to break a lot of things, but not a lot of things have an easy time breaking Sableye. So it's just kind of a trade-off game where I am expecting to be able to take enough damage, get fat enough and strong enough where I start breaking everything, and then just recover as needed. And I'm immune from things like Toxic or Taunt, anything that might try to slow me down. So I have that working in my favor with the Magic Bounce. The Florges, running with leftovers, pretty much max defense. here to account for any type of set from the Yveltal that might show up. Banded isn't going to break me. Specs Oblivion Wing isn't going to hit KO me at all. It turns into a weird battle where I might have to PP stall Oblivion Wing just because it's doing enough damage and I need to do a lot of wish protecting that it's hard to slap it with Moonblast, but I handle it really, really well. So I just know Florges has a pretty good time overall against the Yveltal, unless they're going to get, I think, really particular with like a banded Steel Wing, which I can play around and I have switch out pieces to work with. Pyukumuku with the Shed Shell, because I am very aware that I could run into Taunt trapping Dugtrio, and if he taunts me, then I am absolutely screwed. He can just Toxic me and sit there while I die, and he can prevent me from baton passing out. So Shed Shell gives me that mobility I need to just get off the field if I expect that the Dugtrio is going to try to taunt me and trap me. And then Recover, Toxic, Counter, and the baton pass to give me momentum and just to pivot around. I need Counter to address Scizor late game in case I am in a weird spot with Scizor. And then everything else is just momentum and health and just putting things on timers. Finally, the Toxicity. I'm trying an odd set. I am not overly optimistic of it even going into the team build, but I didn't have a great 6th Mon, and I was aware of the pressure that Suicune was going to generate on my team, and so having something that I could get behind the sub with an attack was just going to be really helpful. Life Orb, Shift Gear, so I could go for a sweep set. Overdrive, really specifically for the Suicune, among other things. Boom Burst is just generally good coverage, and then Fire Punch specifically for the Scizor. With these spreads, I believe at +1, Fire Punch has a pretty solid chance of one-hit KOing. At that speed tier, I outspeed Adamant, Scarf, Dugtrio in case he opts not to go Jolly, and then the rest is in special attack to try to maximize that damage output. But that's the team. That's what I'm generally going for here, is to try to set up with a couple of things. Use Pyukumuku as a defensive pivot when necessary. Use Florges as a wall against the Yveltal if needed, and then using Pheromosa to just kind of pivot and do good damage and control the momentum of the game. So with that in mind, we'll dive into the match. It's a little longer, so I'm going to let it play at normal speed for now. The Scizor leads. I'm opting for a Sableye lead here. I know there's a couple of things he might want to do on turn 1, and so Sableye just gives me some general protection against those. If he leads Dugtrio with the expectation of rocks or something like that, Sableye's in a good spot to handle that. If Suicune tries to Toxic on turn 1, Sableye's in a good spot to deal with that. Scizor leads, so I know I have a free window to just Mega Evolve and click Calm Mind, because I know the Scizor doesn't want to stay on the expected Will-O-Wisp. The Yveltal tries to attack. I think that's a mistake, and it's immediately punished for it. It gets put toxic immediately. His team doesn't really have good clerics, and he doesn't bring anything here that can be a cleric role. Obviously, Diancie has like Heal Bell they could work with. Doesn't bring it. So I know everything that gets status is staying status unless it's running some kind of weird rest set. And so being able to put this Yveltal on a timer really, really early in this match is really helpful for me. It just kind of minimizes the oppressive nature it might try to create against me. Anyway, with its status, I'm in a good spot to keep healing with my Sableye. The Victini comes in. I'm aware Banded v Create can basically one-hit KO me. It won't outright do it, but it can do just so much damage. Anyway, decides to substitute. Really helpful for me. I knew I had to Hex it no matter what it did, because if it goes for a V Create, it gets that -1 special defense, and as long as I survive, then the Hex is going to KO it. He tries to sub to get behind a sub to go spam V Creates. I'm able to stop that. It gets -1 in the special defense market, and then I get a really easy cleanup kill with Hex. So really early on, the Sableye's done really important jobs in outright KOing the Victini and then minimizing the pressure that the Yveltal can create against my team. Suicune comes in, which is the piece that he probably should have brought in a while ago. It's going to get behind the sub, which I expected it to do. Not much I could have done about that. It's going to go for Calm Mind. I'm going to go for Calm Mind. I'm making a mistake, in my opinion. I'm just giving it free room to do this. The reason I'm not outright switching to Pyukumuku is I am worried that it is a toxic set as the last move, which I can't deal with. I have aromatherapy on my floor just to kind of address toxic stalling, and Pyukumuku can pivot pretty nicely, so it doesn't let the toxic stall get oppressive. But I haven't quite realized how easy this Suicune is to navigate around in this game. you'll see me figure it out later in this game. But right now, I just don't know what to do in front of the Suicune, so I'm calm minding to stall, which could be really problematic. And this is how you lose games. It's like by letting things set up that you don't know how you're going to address yet. But my main concern is that this is toxic Suicune, and then that's the real issue it's going to generate. But I have a lot of ways around that. Anyway, I get to max special defense, max special attack. I'm going to go for Hex. It's not going to break because I don't have that great of a special attack stat, and he has a great special defense stat, so I'm not going to get to that 25% margin I need. He goes for Surf. It just does way too much damage. I break his sub. I know he's going to substitute again because he's not going to risk taking a Toxic. I'm going to click Recovery here because that's the best way to get all my health back. And then now I'm going to hard switch to Pyukumuku, which is what I should have done a while ago. Surf comes in. Surf does nothing because I am unaware, and he can't really pressure me with Surf. He switches out. Really important turn for me because that tells me that is not toxic. It tells me his last move is not toxic. It could be rest, it could be something else, but it's not toxic, which means Pyukumuku is in a really good spot to address that Suicune for the rest of this game. I'm predictably clicking Baton Pass here. I come in with Zygarde over Pheromosa because Pheromosa doesn't outright force the Tornadus out, which I know. I expect the Zygardes get outright force or Thunderous out. It doesn't. I get knocked off, as is my habit as of late, with my Zygarde losing its item early. Really shuts down his potency for later in this game, which is unfortunate. I'm going to go for a Coil here to just get stronger and fatter. I am hopeful I'm going to outspeed this Suicune. I do not, which catches me by surprise. I didn't run the exact calcs of what the Suicune needed to run to outspeed the Zygarde, but with my 44 thrown into my speed plus my initial 95 speed stat compared to his 85 speed stat, it was going to be well over 120 EVs needed to outpace me. So he was willing to put that much investment on the chance I wouldn't fully invest or only partially invest into my Zygarde. Works out really well in his favor, makes me look really, really bad and problematic right now because I have given this Suicune an opening to sub again, and I did not get the status on it that I wanted to get. My Thousand Arrows is going to break it here. I'm going to try to call that he subs again just to do more damage. It's a bad call. I immediately lose Zygarde. Suicune is basically at full health. I'm going to come in with the Toxicity here. This is really its best window to do its setup stat is in front of a Suicune because it seems to reliably scare Suicunes out. Suicune knows it can't sub because Overdrive is a sound move which will go through the substitute. It knows it can't one-hit KO me. It doesn't have the coverage move. It knows I can do a lot of damage. So my hope is that Suicunes will flee when Toxicity hits the field. And so I see this as a window to try to click Shift Gear and just do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, he's going to call that, and I'm a negative special defense nature, unfortunately. I opt for negative special defense over negative defense because I wanted to be able to hopefully have survivability against things like Sucker Punch on a Yveltal or Bullet Punch on a boosted Scizor. And so I take a risk on that, and I'm being punished really hard for that nature right now as I lose a ton of health. I'm going to predict here that he's going to hard call that I'm going to go for an electric move and switch into the Doug Trio, because if the Doug Trio is Scarf and the Doug Trio outspeeds, which it can still outspeed if it's Jolly, then it stops me from doing any damage and then just easily one-hit KOs me with the Earthquake. But he doesn't. He stays in with the Suicune. I think that was an unnecessary risk on his part, but he made the right call because I did try to call the Doug Trio switch in, and then he's going to get the kill here on the Toxicity. So he's in a really good spot right now. I've lost 2 pieces. He's only lost 1. I have statused his best piece, which is really significant. The real issue here, though, is that I'm running out of ways to address the Scizor. If the Scizor doesn't have to attack and can switch around, then my Pyukumuku can't pressure it. I can't really risk bullet punches from the Scizor on my Pheromosa. That's a really bad spot to be in. And so I'm basically relying on my Sableye to be able to set up and do enough damage. He's going to switch out to Scizor, which is the right call here. I'm going to come in with the Sableye because I don't know if he has knockoff or not. I don't want to lose that Shed Shell on my Pyukumuku because I have no idea what kind of set the Doug Trio is yet. Don't want to risk that it's not a Scarf or some kind of Choice Lock Doug Trio and that it can easily just Toxic Taunt me and trap me there. So I'm trying to make sure I preserve my item until I know what I'm dealing with. It's going for bullet punches. I'm trying to hard call a U-turn switch into Suicune here, just because I was seeing if I would get a window to do that. But he's making a really good call here that I can't pressure this Scizor, which he knows I've revealed all 4 moves. I have to set up to pressure Scizor. I can't outright do anything to Scizor off the bat, so he's smart to stay in and click Bullet Punch. He does it again. I try to hard call it again that he's going to switch out. I'm wrong again. Really unfortunate. Then he finally U-turns on the expectation I'm going to heal, which I do. So just a really strong sequence of turns from Yahoodles to guess all of my plays and really shut me down. I'm going to call here that he's going to sub. He's pretty much forced to do that because he knows I'm at full health now. And if I try to get a toxic and he tries to stay in and call me with like a surf or something and he's wrong and I stay in with that Mega Sableye and click toxic, then his Suicune's broken. So I know he's going to click substitute here. It's a pretty easy window to get Pheromosa, and I could have played a safer route and gone in with Pyukumuku first, Baton passed into Pheromosa, and then U-turn, but that gives him an extra 12% to work with in health recovered. Whereas now I get to U-turn here pretty freely, and it puts the Suicune in a bad spot where it's at 28 or 34% health. I can Baton Pass really freely. He should not be subbing here. And this is the turn I was talking about. So this is where it finally dawns on me how easy this Suicune is to address. Suicune can't break Pyukumuku. It's revealed all 4 moves, has nothing for Pyukumuku. I have a lot of Baton Pass to work with, so I'm going to Baton Pass freely here, right back into Pheromosa, who is going to U-turn freely right back into the Pyukumuku. So there is absolutely nothing this Suicune can do for the rest of the game as long as my Pyukumuku is healthy. I've realized how easy this is to shut down because I can always just freely pivot into my Pheromosa, break any sub it might have, or just do a lot of damage to it outright with the U-turn. So this just is a way of confirming to me that this mon is no longer a problem, and I'm going to get my Pyukumuku healed up here. I know he's going to switch out on the expectation I click Toxic. He comes in with Yveltal. It's the smart call here. I'm going to opt to come in with my Sableye because I know the damage isn't enough. I wasn't sure either if it was going to have a move like Taunt or Toxic it might want to click. I only seen the knockoff. I knew it had leftovers, so I didn't really know what kind of set this was other than that it wasn't pure offense, and so it might have been a more statusy or supportive set. And so I switched into my Sableye on the expectation it tries to do something like Taunt, and I was right, fortunately. Status is the Yveltal back with its own Taunt, which gives me free windows to start clicking my Calm Mind. And unlike earlier in this game, and this is why this is significant, the Suicune is no longer at a health percentage to come in and pressure me. It could have hard switched in there on the Yveltal on the expectation I don't do anything and try to set up instead, and then it would have been above 25%, and it could have subbed and tried applying pressure that way again. A hard risk for it to make, and I've already been punishing that with my Pyukumuku play. So all in all, Suicune can't stop the setup like it did earlier this game. I'm in a much better spot to click Calm Minds now and to start getting my special attack up here. I test the waters prematurely here to see what my damage output is. It's not good, which is something I shouldn't have been doing. And the reason is I don't have a lot of PP here. I have 9 PP left. Suicune has pressure, which is going to take a lot of PP out of me every time. I have 5 mons I'm going to try to get through with 9 PP. So I need to be conserving those hexes as much as possible. I'm going to start combining some more, getting my special attack up higher and higher. I'm still doing it again. I don't know why. I've already confirmed it has Roost. I don't know why I'm trying to apply pressure like that. He's going to come in with Suicune, which is the right call to make. I think he should sub here, but he's going to opt to hard switch out, which is fine. I'm going to continue, or I go for another Hex, just in case he did sub, because I wanted to be able to break that, which I believe I could have done at +2. I didn't think that would be an issue. But now I'm down to 7, which is the real concern. 5 Mon, 7 PP. One of them has pressure. Not the ideal situation here. Just because this is one of my last pieces to break Scizor with reliably, and so I need to be really, really cautious about how I'm using this PP right now. I know that the Yveltal can't break me. It doesn't have a move for it, so I'm just going to continue to set up in front of it because that's the easy thing to do. Thundurus is going to come in. Not really scared of what the Thundurus can do. I'm going to slap it with a Toxic because there's no reason to waste hexes right now unless it's got a status on it, so I can status it pretty freely here. It's going to pivot out. He's going to come back in with Yveltal. What I should continue to do here is just continue to set up. I shouldn't even try to apply pressure yet. On the expectation it's going to Roost and try to ruin some of my PP. So I get some stall here. He's going to make a successful call with his... no, he's not actually. I'm going to sub or combine again. The Thundurus is going to come back in. Now I'm in a pretty free spot to click Hex. No matter what takes this Hex, it's not going to be happy. Thunderous is going to outright die. Doug Trio is probably going to outright die even without status. The Suicune will take 27% from this and die. I expect that Scizor would die. This would die. So something dies to the Hex here, which is really, really significant for me. That means I get a free kill here. So a good window to clean up one more. The Yveltal is going to come in. I'm going to predict it roosts here. I believe I'm not going to Hex. Oh, no, I do. So I'm in a good spot here. I think what I do on this turn, and I'll explain it in a second, it roosts again. I go for a recover. I expected at that point he was going to accept his Yveltal was going to die, but he's playing it smart and I'm playing it dumb. My PP isn't there. He's got Roost to spam and just force me to waste PP. So that's what he's trying to accomplish here is just bring me down to a number where I can't clean up everything with the Sableye. And then there might be room for him to navigate. He roosts again. I'm going to, I believe, Hex, yeah. And then I think I'm going to Hex again here, even though I maybe shouldn't. So I Hex and get the KO. I'm down to 3. Really significant number. So he makes a mistake here coming in with Scizor. I'll call it that outright. What he should do is come in with the Suicune here, click Substitute, force me to waste 2 PP or waste all of my PP just to KO the Suicune, and then put his Scizor in a better spot to succeed. Because without my PP to click Hex, then I have a hard time dealing with this Scizor. I'm basically reliant on my Pyukumuku at that point, or one close combat attempt from the Pheromosa to break this Scizor puts me in a really bad spot. So he should just be throwing away his Suicune at this point in the game to waste the rest of my PP. Instead, he's going to come in with Suicune. He's going to Roost to scout what my damage output is. It is 73, which is really high. He sees that he can get to 77%, so it gets to roll range where I may not outright KO it here. But I get a high roll on the Hex, which is fortunate. KO is the Mega Scizor. He's going to come in with Suicune, which is what I think he should have done before. He should have clicked sub there, in my opinion. I don't think it really matters at this point in the game. When he doesn't, he sacks the Doug Trio instead. I'm out of PP. No big deal. I'm going to hard switch to Pyukumuku and play the safe way to victory at this point. He only really has that option. I'm going to freely baton pass back into Pheromosa because there's just absolutely no pressure he can apply to the Pheromosa. Pheromosa can very safely U-turn back into Pyukumuku. And so it's a really, really fortunate way of controlling momentum here. I'm going to let Pyukumuku get the Toxic here over baton passing here because Pyukumuku's done a lot of good work this game and he should be rewarded with a KO. So I wanted Larry to get his moment in the sun because he really saved me this week from the Suicune that was threatening to sweep me. And so I'm just going to click recovery here and stall it out. I don't want a baton pass. I don't want to do anything else. I want him to earn his kill because he did really good work for me. And this is the last turn of him just kind of waiting for the game to end and me waiting for the game to end, and the game does end. So really, really strong performance from Pyukumuku. Mega Sableye makes his debut this week and did incredible work. I believe he picked up 4 KOs, maybe 5. I think he got 5 KOs. He KO'd Victini, Doug Trio, Scizor, Thunderous, Yveltal. Yeah, Mega Sableye picked up 5 KOs, and then Pyukumuku got the final one. So my defensive pieces really showed up this week to apply good defensive pressure and then pick up some necessary KOs and just create some needed momentum. So the Pyukumuku I was really satisfied with this week. I was in a really bad spot against several of those pieces until Pyukumuku kind of gave me that momentum control I needed to force the Suicune out and really open the game back up. And then Mega Sableye was able to find its opening thanks to whittling down that Suicune enough where it was able to set up and just blow through most of the team. So I moved to 6-1. Like I said, I've already been secured for a playoff spot, so this wasn't to make playoffs, but now this is more or less to determine seeding in playoffs. I will be guaranteed first overall seed if I win in my final week. I can fall. I probably a fair number of seeds depending on how things finish. I probably can land as low as 4th seed, I would imagine, with a bad enough loss. But I moved to 6-1 for now. Going into the final week of the regular season, the top 8 teams will make playoffs, so there is no bye for getting number 1 overall seed. It just puts me against the 8th seed, which, statistically would give me the best chance of winning. But every match is unique, and there are people I definitely do not want to replay again that may slide in at that 8th position. So we'll see how the final week shakes out, and then we will get ourselves prepared for playoffs. So stay tuned for more videos.